Right now, we are live with the match. Introducing our players first, starting at the bottom right, we have EGStephano, able to take out mana with a 2-0. And starting at the top left against one Zerg player already, LG-IMMVP. One also without dropping a single map. And coming back to our point, we were talking a little bit during the break of Blizzard's ideas to change Infestors, and that this change might hit before the IronSquid tournament final at the end of January is going to happen. And what's really interesting to me is when I talk to players about the ghosts in general, how you use ghosts against Infestors, and basically all of them agreed that Terrans should play a little bit more ghost heavy, especially in a late game scenario, to use nukes for once. We've seen that in the GSL.
On Tomb Valley is the map we always see.
Exactly. We had these games that Maru played, Gumiho as well.
Gumiho loves to use ghosts in general on even Ohana, for example, but
you can just zone out a Zerg player so well with nukes.
You know, something I always thought about would be an interesting change, and this is my personal view on this, and I think it would be worth a shot to check. The Ghost used to EMP and take out all the energy of a unit, but now it only does about 100. So I would like to see the damage for EMP to shields for Protoss units, for example, stay at 100, so it's not too strong against Archons, but then go back to where it would take out all the energy of a unit. So that would actually, I feel, change. It would change Terran versus Protoss, where people would feel a little bit more, a little bit safer against Templar, but then also maybe it would work a little bit better against Zerg, because right now, if you have to run in with Ghosts to EMP Infestors, it's not as easy as you might think with Broodlords around, and if you have to EMP twice to get all that energy away,
there's a big problem with that. That is actually a really good point, because I talked about this with a few Terran players and also with the Zergs, and the problem is not really how much energy you take away. The problem is the model size. If you think about if you think about the High Templars, they usually cluster up, and a Protoss player has to make a great effort to split them so that the EMPs don't really hit them. But if you place a good EMP, you hit so many of them that it's worth it. But with the model size of the Infestor, even if they're clustered
one Infestor
up,
is basically as big as an EMP.
yeah, so you have to. You know, that is one thing that a lot of Terran players said. They're like, yes, EMPs are still great, and maybe Terran players should use them a little bit more, should use the ghosts here. But the problem is that even if you hit the Infestors, you have to use so many EMPs. And Gumiho makes it work, but it's just way more difficult than High Templars. So this argument that sometimes pops up, well, why don't you use more ghosts? Because you do it against High Templars anyways, you can do it against Infestors as well. It's still true, but it's just more difficult. I'm not quite sure if Blizzard could actually even change that, but just the idea of having the Infestor a little bit smaller so that EMP can hit more units, it's something that should maybe be considered, because it's a valid point that Terran players are raising.
That's a good point. The thing is, to me, I really like that idea, and actually this is something you and I have talked about in the past before. I think that one of the problems with that idea is that it only addresses the issue of EMPs, and if that doesn't if it's still too difficult to EMP, that doesn't really fix the problem, and it even makes Infestors, in some ways, you know, if you have a smaller unit, they clump up less, and they're also going to be like a little bit faster, more maneuverable, because they can move around and get fungals better, so that could even negatively affect things. So I don't know, it's something that should be tried. I feel like a lot of things should be experimented these days.
That could definitely be on a test patch. But, well, Blizzard is going to come up with a solution either way. Right now we're focusing a bit on the game itself. So far we had very standard openings from both players, nothing too fancy. That allowed us to go, just to drift a little bit into this discussion that we had. Terran players struggling against Zerg, struggling against, just in general in this current situation, which kind of reversed what we had at the beginning of the year, where Terran was dominating. Yeah. But now we have Stephano up against MVP, and this is our winner's match. Stephano actually going straight into the Roach run here. Look at that. He did not scout too much. He only saw the expansion. He sees the gas with the Overlord, but we have him with the Roach run attempt, and his harvester count is currently at 35. Ooh, this looks like we have a Roach bailing bust.
Yeah.
I mean, you can also use this timing to go into just into defensive roaches or push it with roaches. You don't have to go for roach bailing, and with a double evolution chamber, it feels like he might not do it.
Yeah, that's a lot of resources for just a block. I think he's really going to be using those for upgrades, but you're right. He's definitely going to do some roach pressure here. Well, he made 7 more drones, though.
You can use it just to be defensive. There are basically 2 options that you have these days. Originally, when you went for this timing with your Roach Warren and with the gas, it was kind of the standard timing that you try to hit with a Roach Baneling Pressure. But nowadays, you can also just get those units out to be defensive to make sure that those Hellions are not going to kill you. So there are two attempts there, or two ways that you can go, and it's a little bit more common to play more defensive with this style these days. And this is what we see from Stephano. Therefore, also the double evolution chamber. But it's a bit different of what you usually see. He really tries to go for two double upgrade timing.
Look at that Roach, man. He's hanging out with the queens. He was doing the block. Now he's like, nah, I'll check that watchtower out. Don't worry. Do whatever you need.
Roach on double queen action. I'm in for that.
Yeah, man. I'd download it.
Don't do that when I'm drinking my coffee, dude. Seriously, that was close. That was really close. My keyboard would have hated you. I'm like, oh my god.
I was like, can Keller withstand this joke? Like, can we just move on and like pretend like it didn't happen, or is he gonna laugh? And then he laughed. And I was like, either way is acceptable, but I wonder what Keller's gonna do.
I nearly spilled my coffee. You can't do that to me, seriously.
Oh, here comes that Dustin drone again, man. He's he
Oh,
died this time. Stephano not as crisp as Razor there.
yeah, Dustin is dead. I'm so sad for him. Is MVP going to do the same thing with those Banshees? Is he just waiting for the cloak or for the second Banshee?
Yeah, it finished
Cloak.
actually.
He's waiting for cloak.
Yep.
And yeah, well, that tick is already done, so good luck with that.
Spore is already coming up as well because the Overlord saw everything, but he will be able to get a
few.
little bit of damage done. And remember, the Banshees are always useful in the mid and late game as well for picking off investors trying to damage those queens.
I like the Overlord here spreading creep to give the queens a bit more of an edge. He didn't connect the bases with creep tumors. Using the Overlord, therefore, a very good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, Stephano, look at you. Going into a Roach and Hydras here. We've seen this a little bit more often.
Yeah.
This is it kind of had of a comeback, but I didn't expect it against MVP.
Well, actually, when you said Roach and Hydra, like, I was just like, I literally thought you misspoke, and I was like, wait, what unit? He must mean Infestors or something. I look at the production tab, I started to freak out a little bit. We have MVP with a really interesting composition where he's adding Marauders in. It's like he's gonna go mech, but he wants to make sure he has enough Marauders so he doesn't die to that push that sometimes Zergs catch him off guard with. That is third. You've seen this on Whirlwind a few times when he plays against Zerg player when the Zerg player knows he's meching.
Look at those upgrades. The creep spread in this scenario is actually even more important than it usually is.
Yeah.
And we have +2/+2. This is this early double evolution chamber play by Stephano. And MVP going into mech doesn't even have any upgrades at
Look
all.
at how he spreads a creep. He spreads it more forward rather than towards his third base. So his third base, you know, it's because he's got such an aggressive position with his creep. He doesn't really need it to be connected there. Because MVP's not going for drop play. If he were going for drop play, this would be a big annoyance. But I want to see how this plays out. We have seen this before. Hydros actually do decently against siege tanks when the siege tank count is low, and you can actually get in there and start picking them off.
Yeah, you have to get rid of the siege tanks as fast as possible. And this is not Heart of the Swarm, guys. This is not the extra.
He's gonna get these Banshees down. One and
MVP is like freaking out. He's like, "What? You're not supposed to have anti at this time on the map."
He's like, is this the beta where people thought Hydros were good when people went Banshees?
And well, the siege tank is up, but it's a bit out of range.
One of the other problems too is that Hellions can actually do quite well against Hydralisk if there are enough Hellions. In this case, there's not. This is a great attack by Stephano. I'm loving it, and he actually just pushes through.
He kills the siege tank. He needs the siege tank gone, and that's what happens.
So much extra damage to those SCVs at the back. The Roaches tank and the Hydras. This is like CBZ, man. The Roaches tank and the Hydras do the real damage from behind. What are we watching?
This is awesome. Stephano here puts MVP down to 30 harvester supply.
Hydras!
75 drones for him. And this is something that we've seen in the past occasionally happen by several players that are trying to get Hydralisk back into the game. And it actually works.
Stephano just won this game with the Hydros push, but he only had like, was it 9 Hydralisks? Just enough.
This is really, really cool. So now MVP of all people is running away from Hydralisk at the 13-minute mark.
It's just 3 of them, but look at how much of a difference those 3 Hydras can really make at the back while the Roaches tank the damage. It's like MVP needs to be targeting those Hydras or something.
I would love Stephano to take down the tanks, and that's exactly what he does now. He moves in
Even
and
with the high ground vision with that Overseer.
he tries to trade as well as possible, and MVP is down to 55 supply. Stephano with his aggression might not be able to take MVP down right away, but he denied so much mining time, and MVP is going into mech. Not having this 2 gas at the 3rd phase is awful for him. This is like the worst case scenario, and Stephano's on 4 bases now.
I would love to see, after this next wave of 7 roaches, by the way, he's getting 3-3 for his roaches and hydras. I'd love to see another group of like 10 hydras with this group of like 27 roaches. And oh wow, he's doing it. Well, he starts 4. If he goes up to like 10, that would just be. I
don't think he can go to 10 because we have siege tanks now, and not only 2.
Yeah, there's 4.
There's 4, and by the time that the Hydralists arrive, there will probably be 8.
That's true.
But still, as long as he camps the 3rd and denies gas to MVP, as
like,
a mech player, 2 bases, that doesn't really work.
You know what's interesting to me is if he's going to make hydras, he only makes 4. I wonder if he's going to use those for potential Hellion drop defense or just defense in general against Banshees. Well, he makes 5, 6 more. He's like, I am going up 10 for you, Wolf. I'm like, that's right.
Look at this creep spread.
Yeah, he's getting in every direction. He surrounds these Hellions. The Hellions have nowhere to run.
And the problem with the creep spread just is that MVP lost all map control. He lost all momentum. Not even the Hellions can do anything. And this is the issue why even the 2 Banshees. The 2 Banshees are gone, so no scans, no option to take those creep tumors down, and that's why Stephano just can push it forward and forward and forward, and will have soon have reached the 3rd phase.
Ultralisk Cavern, but this is a very different situation than with the Ultralisk Cavern we saw against MVP before, because Stephano is ahead. There's not that critical mass of siege tanks that can fight the Ultras. Here we go, the Hydras here going to do some extra damage at the back, but the Roaches tanking just once more. The Hydras take out siege tanks so quickly, actually. Just look at that. From behind, they're able to do so much. If you make too many Roaches, then some of the Roaches at the back can't really fight. But if you make Roaches and Hydras, the Hydras at the back can actually fight. And that's it. GG. Hydralisk taking out not just any Terran. This is no Heartless Swarm show match. This is Wings of Liberty. I'm actually freaking out a little bit right now.